Chapter 1. The Wedding of Strangers. The cathedral reeked of lilies and deceit. White petals blanketed the marble aisles, their fragrance masking the stench of politics and old money. Gold ribbons coiled around pillars, chandeliers glittered like bribes disguised as blessings. Every flicker of candlelight seemed to whisper lies. Reporters hovered like well-dressed vultures, snapping photographs of what the world believed was a love story, an alliance between the sainted CEO of Vance Global and the redeemed heir of a criminal empire. But to the groom at the altar, it wasn't romance. It was strategy wrapped in silk. Lucia Moretti adjusted his cufflinks with the ease of a man used to power, his dark eyes sliding toward Elias Vance, the man he was about to call husband, his rival, and his favorite battlefield. A slow smile ghosted across Lucian's lips. "Smile for the camera, sweetheart. You look like you're attending your own execution." Elias didn't flinch. His voice cut like glass. "I'm trying not to vomit on your vows." Lucian's laugh was low, the kind that promised trouble. "We'll work on your sense of romance." They turned toward the priest, whose sanctimonious grin couldn't hide the greed shining in his eyes. The crowd sighed on cue as the rings were exchanged, platinum bands polished until they could blind. Flashbulbs flared as Lucian slid a ring onto Elias's finger with the precision of a conqueror claiming land. Then came the kiss. Lucian took his time. His hand cupped Elias's jaw with deceptive tenderness before pulling him in, mouth curving just before contact, like the devil savoring victory. The kiss was long, theatrical, and deliberate. Elias stood still, his spine rigid, while Lucian's nails traced possessive crescents at the nape of his neck. The room thundered with applause. 3 months earlier, the boardroom was all glass and frost. Elias sat at the head of the table, pen tapping against the contract that could alter the world economy, or destroy it. His team watched him, afraid to breathe. Across from him lounged Lucian Moretti, ex-crime lord turned investor, unapologetically casual, amusement flickering in his gaze. "You need my network," Lucian said simply. "Eastern Europe eats EOs alive. My people ensure you live long enough to make your profits." "I don't hire bodyguards with body counts," Elias replied. "I hire competence." Lucian leaned forward, smile widening. "Then marry me." The silence that followed was almost sacred. "You'll have access to my offshore systems. I get legitimacy. You get security. And our enemies? They won't know whether to bring contracts or coffins." Elias studied him, jaw tight. He despised how calm Lucian was, how effortlessly he owned every room. But power recognized power, and Elias was not a fool. He reached out, shaking Lucian's hand. "Try to double-cross me and I'll end your empire with a signature." Lucian brushed his lips over Elias's knuckles, eyes glinting. "Can't wait to test that." The wedding feast. The reception was a masquerade of the rich and dangerous. Politicians whispered beside smugglers. CEOs toasted beside thieves dressed as philanthropists. The cake towered like a monument to vanity, champagne flowing as if sin could be baptized. Elias lingered by the balcony, nursing his irritation. His sister, Camilla, approached, wineglass in hand. "You look like you're mourning something." "My freedom," he muttered. "At least your cellmate's gorgeous. He's a serpent in silk." Meanwhile, Lucian dazzled the crowd. He made Elias's mother laugh, a miracle in itself, and had his father recounting stories long buried. "They adore him," Camilla whispered. "They adore facades," Elias replied. The suite, the newlyweds' private room, looked like a romantic fantasy sponsored by manipulation. Roses, candles, and tension, thick enough to choke on. Lucien tossed his jacket aside, undoing buttons with unhurried grace. Was the kiss too much? I've survived worse. He grinned. You used to like my mouth. Finish that sentence and I'll annul this before sunrise. Lucien took a step closer, the air tightening. We're married, Elias. Might as well make it believable. If you touch me, I'll ruin you in the morning. Lucien's laugh was soft and dangerous. You already do. He wandered to the balcony, humming off key, shirt half open, while Elias glared daggers at his back. He told himself it was hatred, this pulse in his chest, this awareness of Lucien's every movement. But deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. Lucien, of course, was certain. He'd been obsessed for years. He just called it strategy.
Chapter 2. Smoke and Glass. Marriage, Elias decided, was an overpriced hostage situation. Lucien proved it daily, barefoot, humming out of tune, drinking ancient scotch before breakfast. He leaned against the window, shirtless, sunlight gilding the scars that peeked from under his tattoos. Morning, love. I made toast. It caught fire. That was a $32,000 vintage whiskey. Then it died heroically. Later, at the office, Elias commanded the boardroom with razor focus, until Lucien strolled in wearing sunglasses and audacity. Apologies, everyone, he announced. Had to remind your CEO to eat something other than spite. Elias didn't look up. Tell me those roses aren't for me. Lucien dropped them on the table. They're for the only man I fear, your temper. The board chuckled nervously. Lucien leaned closer, voice low. You forgot your ring again. I left it in the blender. So romantic, Lucien murmured. So mine. That night, gunfire shattered the mansion's silence. Lucien burst into the bedroom, guns in both hands, eyes burning with lethal calm. Stay behind me. I'm not fragile. You're carrying a company worth billions. Humor me. They fought their way down the hall, bullets singing through the air. Lucien dragged Elias behind a column, one arm firm around his waist, the other steady on his gun. When the final shot echoed, silence returned, thick, ringing, and unreal. Lucien turned, face close, breathing hard. You're not bleeding. I call that love. Elias's glare could have frozen lava. You call everything love. Lucien's smirk softened. Only when it's you. Chapter 3. The Fire Between. 8 months in, Elias concluded that Lucien wasn't a husband. He was a natural disaster. Every day began with chaos, every night with arguments that flirted with combustion. And then came the sabotage. 3 business deals collapsed in 1 month, each traceable to an anonymous network that smelled suspiciously of Lucien's handiwork. When Elias confronted him at a lavish underworld gala, the chandeliers above them trembled. You're leaking intel to my competitors, Elias said, voice calm but lethal. Lucien only smiled. You look magnificent when you're furious, almost human. Why? Elias hissed. Because anger means you're still looking at me. They danced, a war, disguised as a waltz. Every turn was a threat, every touch a dare. You think I won't destroy you? Elias whispered. Lucien leaned in, mouth at his ear. Try, and maybe you'll finally touch me for real. Elias shoved him away mid-spin, leaving Lucien grinning in the aftermath like a man who had set his own heart ablaze. That night, the fire turned literal. Rage became heat. Hatred became hunger. They collided like storms, each trying to consume the other, until dawn broke over tangled sheets, and the illusion of distance died. Lucien sipped his coffee while Elias pretended not to remember. "Lovely night," Lucien said lazily. "I've had better hallucinations." "Then let's make it recurring." Elias rolled his eyes, but his pulse betrayed him. Lucien smirked. "You keep pretending this isn't real. I'll keep proving it is." Chapter 4. Something Impossible. A month later, Elias's world tilted. He woke nauseous, exhausted, snapping at everyone, including Lucien. "You poisoned me, didn't you?" Lucien blinked. "If I did, I'd have used something more poetic." When the doctor told him the truth, Elias nearly fired him on the spot. "You're pregnant," the man repeated, terrified. Elias stared. "Try again, with words that make sense." "It's rare, but possible, especially with an enigma partner." Silence. Then, "Get out." 2 weeks of secrecy followed. Elias hid it beneath tailored suits and sarcasm. But Lucien was too good a liar to miss another. He hacked, bribed, and blackmailed his way to the truth. He burst into their suite one evening, holding the test results like scripture. "You're having my child." Elias nearly dropped his tea. "You're invading my privacy." Lucien swept him into his arms, laughing and swearing and crying all at once. "You're impossible. You're insane." Perfect combination, really. When their families found out, chaos followed. Lucien's mother wept. Elias's sister screamed about cosmic injustice. Through it all, Lucien hovered like a devoted bodyguard in disaster in one. "You've made me a father," he whispered. "By accident." "That is just a poetic accident, darling." Chapter 5. Hours. 5 months later, Elias stared at his reflection in a custom-tailored suit that accounted for the curve of his stomach. "I look like an expensive balloon," he muttered. Lucien leaned on the door frame, smiling like sin. "You look like prophecy, and my prophecy's armed." The charity gala was supposed to be calm. It ended in bullets. A rival syndicate stormed the venue. Chaos erupted. One bullet grazed Elias's arm and Lucien's mask cracked. He became something else. Every inch of charm burned away, leaving raw, possessive fury. In minutes, the attackers were down. Lucien wrapped Elias in his arms, voice trembling. "No one touches what's mine." Later, the doctor's words hit harder than any bullet. The stress could kill him. Lucien didn't argue. He simply built a fortress around the man he loved. Guards, medics, walls thicker than regret. "You can't lock me away," Elias protested. "Watch me," Lucien murmured, pressing a kiss to his temple. "You're my universe now." Months later, at 3:42 a.m., their daughter arrived, tiny, fierce, and already frowning. Lucien held her as if afraid she'd vanish. "Lyra," he whispered. "Lia Moretti Vance." Elias, exhausted, mumbled, "Fine, just let me sleep." 6 months after that, chaos was still their language. But between the gunfire, the board meetings, and the endless arguments, something real had taken root. One night, Lucien returned to find Elias asleep, their daughter nestled on his chest. For once, Lucien said nothing. He simply slid beside them, arms wrapping around both, whispering against their skin. "Mine, both of you, always." And for the first time, Elias didn't pull away.